The small town of Willow Creek was a lie, and Sylwen lived right in the center of it. It wasn't a lie in the traditional sense, with hidden government bunkers or secret alien landings. Its deception was one of volume. The old village, nestled deep in the wooded hills of the Pacific Northwest, was so quiet, so stubbornly average, that it muffled the noise of the world. For Sylwen, who was half human and half Zylian, this quiet was a matter of survival. Her Zylian heritage had gifted her with a powerful form of empathy. It wasn't the ability to read minds, but to feel souls. Every person near her radiated an invisible emotional field, a symphony of nerves, memories, and desires, and Sylwen was the only one who heard the music. In a city, the collective human cacophony was 1,000-decibel scream, the raw joy of a street vendor, the simmering anger of a frustrated driver, the crippling fear of a student before a test. It all flooded her senses, leaving her curled up and trembling, unable to tell her own feelings from the crushing weight of strangers. Willow Creek, with its 300 quiet residents, was a silent refuge. Sylwen sat in the window seat of her grandmother's bookshop, the quiet corner. The air was thick with the scent of aged paper and dry vanilla. Outside, the rain misted the cobblestone street. She had just finished a cup of herbal tea and was enjoying a rare moment of clarity. Her grandmother, Aethelum, was the only other Zylian hybrid for miles, and her calm, steady emotions were like a comforting anchor. Aethelum's feelings were a smooth, low hum of contentment, a feeling that had settled over the bookshop like dust over the unsold classics. But then, a flicker. A sharp, silver-blue shiver of feeling ran through the air, completely foreign to the usual, muted tones of Willow Creek. It was powerful, not overwhelming in volume, but in its purity. It felt like the echo of a vast, empty canyon, deep and cold. It was a resonance she had never encountered before, and it made the hairs on her arms stand up. "He's here," Sylwen whispered, her voice barely audible over the gentle rain. Aethelum, sitting behind the counter polishing her reading glasses, simply looked up and smiled, a wise, patient smile. "The new boy, dear? From the academy?" The emotion Sylwen felt wasn't a teenage anxiety or a tired traveler's longing. It was deep sadness, a profound, unearthly grief that felt older than the town itself. It was layered with an almost metallic determination, an unbreakable will hidden beneath the sorrow. A shadow fell across the bookshop's glass window. The door chimes sang a cheerful melody as he entered, and Sylwen's breath hitched. He was tall and slender, with the kind of dark, untidy hair that suggested he was more interested in stars than styling. His clothes were ordinary, a simple gray hoodie and worn jeans, but the presence he projected was anything but. His eyes, when they scanned the room, were the color of storm clouds, and they seemed to look through the shelves, the walls, and maybe even Sylwen herself. The silvery resonance around him intensified. It was a tangible pressure now, a wave of profound loss that threatened to wash away her own grounded calm. Yet, there was no hostility, only a terrible, isolated loneliness. "He's like an empty room in a haunted house," Sylwen thought. "All the furniture is gone, but the ghost is still there." He approached the counter, his movements quiet and precise. "I'm looking for books on celestial cartography," he said, his voice low and smooth. "Specifically, pre-contact texts. Anything that mentions the Orion Minor star group. A little heavy for a first day in town, isn't it, son?" Aethelum chuckled warmly. "Willow Creek is mostly known for its romance novels and gardening guides." "I'm not from around here," he replied, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor in his voice. Sylwen stood up and walked toward the counter, compelled by the alien note in his emotional song. "We have a section in the back. Third shelf down, astronomy. I can show you." As she drew closer, the emotional data became a blinding flash. It wasn't just sadness, it was the echo of an entire extinguished civilization. His loss wasn't personal, it was cosmic. And under the grief, there was a tiny, flickering spark of something precious, something he was carrying and protecting. The soul essence. The thought sprang into her mind, not a memory or a deduction, but an instinct. The term felt ancient, drawn from a part of her Zylian self she barely understood. My name is Sylwen, she said, extending her hand. The simple, human gesture felt like a risk. He hesitated, his storm cloud eyes narrowing slightly. He did not extend his hand. My name is Rylan. The moment her name left his lips, a new, sharp spike of emotion hit her, a brief, almost panicked recognition, followed immediately by a fierce, steel-trap concealment. He knew something. He recognized her, or perhaps her Zylian signature. Well, Rylan, Sylwen said, dropping her hand and forcing a casual smile. The Orion Minor section is this way. The unveiling. Over the next week, Rylan became an enigma Sylwen couldn't ignore. He enrolled in the local, highly exclusive Arbor Academy, a small, private school for gifted students that Alara insisted Sylwen attend to keep her human side balanced. Rylan was constantly remote, untouchable. His emotional output remained that deep, cold well of sorrow, masked by an unnerving stillness. Sylwen, on the other hand, was struggling. The close proximity to Rylan had disrupted her peaceful refuge. Like two tuning forks, her empathic ability resonated with his unique, alien frequency. Her own emotions, once clear, were becoming muddled, shaded by his vast, ancient grief. She had headaches, sudden bouts of inexplicable despair, and a relentless, protective vigilance she couldn't account for. One afternoon, she found Rylan alone in the Academy's dilapidated greenhouse, staring at a cluster of wilting, purple flowers. Sylwen approached him carefully. Those are Zythia lilies, she said. They only grow on one small continent on Zylia. My grandmother smuggled a few seeds out a long time ago. Rylan did not turn around, but the resonance of shock was so intense it felt like a physical blow. The sadness momentarily shattered, revealing a flash of absolute terror. You shouldn't know that name, he whispered, the sound raw. I'm half-Zylian, Sylwen admitted softly. My father, he was from your world. Rylan finally turned, his face pale and his dark eyes wide. The terrible terror was now mixed with a frantic hope, followed instantly by the steel trap of concealment returning even stronger than before. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, his voice flat and controlled. I'm from Boston. My parents travel. I'm just here for a semester. The grief around you doesn't come from Boston, Rylan. It comes from a dying star, Sylwen pressed. She took a risk, speaking a word she had learned from Alara, the Zylian term for their power. I'm an Echidron. I feel the truth. Rylan's composure crumbled. He staggered back, leaning against the cold glass of the greenhouse. Then feel this truth, Echidron. We are being hunted. The Void cult knows I'm here. If you know the Zylian name, you know what they seek. Sylwen's heart pounded. Alara had only told her bedtime stories of the Void cult, a fanatical group whose philosophy was based on the belief that all life was a mistake and sought to return the universe to nothingness. They were said to collect and consume the concentrated soul essences of unique alien species, believing that by extinguishing them, they were purifying the cosmos. They seek the Aethelum, Sylwen said, the word a reverent whisper. The Zylian name for the soul essence, the spiritual core that held the collective memory and brilliance of a species. It is what I carry, Rylan admitted, his voice barely audible. I am the last of the Tkar, a people known for our spiritual light. Before my home world was extinguished, they crystallized our Aethelum, the entirety of our culture's memory, and bound it to me. I am the vessel. And that, Sylwen, is why I am filled with sadness. I carry a graveyard. He finally reached out and grasped Sylwen's shoulder. His touch was cold. Your empathy is not just a burden, Echidron. It's an antennae. The moment you truly felt my grief, you send out a beacon. They know a Zylian empath is nearby. They know their prey is close. And if they find the Aethelum, they won't just take the Tkar essence, they'll take yours, and then they will extinguish everything you love in this quiet little town. The channel. The revelation slammed into Sylwen with the force of an oncoming train. Her isolated, quiet life was over. The lie of Willow Creek had been broken. How do we stop them? She asked, the question laced with a fierce, protective anger that was entirely her own. She was tired of simply reflecting the emotions of others. We can't fight them with weapons, Rylan said. The Void Cult uses psychic dampeners, devices that crush and silence all emotional life, making it easy to harvest the Aethelum. They've perfected the art of creating despair. They are drawn to my grief, the resonance of a dying race. Rylan explained the crux of their dilemma. The Void Cult had a spy among the Academy faculty, a human sympathizer named Professor Varner, who was subtly using energy fields to enhance Rylan's emotional output, turning his sorrow into a magnet. You have to learn to control your echidron power, Sylwen, Rylan urged. You don't just feel emotions. A powerful echidron can channel them. You can absorb my sorrow, clean the signal, and then reflect a different emotion back out, something they don't expect. Something they can't harvest. What can stop despair? Sylwen asked, feeling a lump of fear constrict her throat. Rylan met her gaze, his eyes shining with a desperate sincerity. Hope. The purest, most honest hope you can generate. Hope for a future that includes me, hope for the Tkar memory, hope for this town. But you can't just think it. You have to take my grief into yourself and forge it into light. Sylwen spent the next 2 days in the bookshop's dusty attic, locked in a brutal training session with Alara. Her grandmother, a powerful but retired echidron, pushed her to the edge of her capacity. You're a mirror, Sylwen. Alara commanded, her own emotional field radiating sharp, uncompromising focus. Stop reflecting and start shaping. Take Rylan's fear, the cold, black despair he carries, and bring it into the center of your being. Don't let it drown you. Let it be the fuel. The light must be brighter than the darkness, child. Sylwen would take the imagined resonance of Rylan's cosmic grief, and the feeling was like swallowing a piece of ice from a dead planet. It paralyzed her, and she would collapse, gasping, her own emotional center in chaos. I can't, she cried, tears of despair, not her own, streaming down her face. It's too much. It wants to be sad. It wants to die. It wants to survive, Sylwen. Alara shouted back, her voice tight with fierce love. The Tkar Aethelum wants to live. Find the small spark of will hidden in Rylan's heart, the part that kept him running, and use it. That tiny sliver of will is your bridge to hope. Finally, on the third night, as Rylan was preparing to make his escape from the Academy grounds, Sylwen felt a shift. She focused entirely on Rylan's distant, terrified resonance. She plunged into the frigid depths of his sorrow, letting it wash over her, ready to be extinguished. But just as the darkness threatened to consume her, she saw it, a tiny, fiery ember, the unbroken resolve of the Tkar people, a defiant memory that refused to fade. She didn't push the feeling away. She embraced it, wrapping her own pure, human love for her town and her grandmother around the fiery ember. Then, she pushed. Instead of reflecting Rylan's grief, Sylwen channeled a brilliant, radiating pulse of unshakable hope. It was a clean, powerful frequency that felt like a sunrise, washing over the town and stretching out into the darkness. The beacon of hope. The effect was instantaneous and dramatic. In the academy, Professor Varner, the Void Cult spy, was setting up his psychic dampener in his hidden office, preparing to harvest Rylan's essence the moment he crossed the property line. The dampener was tuned to despair, the perfect frequency to paralyze Rylan. But when Sylwen's pulse of hope hit the device, the delicate alien circuitry overloaded. Varner screamed as the machine sparked and went dead. At the same moment, Rylan, climbing over the rusted fence at the edge of the academy grounds, felt the cosmic sorrow he carried lift. It wasn't gone, but it was muted, absorbed into a comforting, warm current that flowed through the air. He looked up, his storm cloud eyes catching the soft, ethereal glow coming from the direction of the quiet corner bookshop. A small, black ship, a Void Cult scout, had been cloaked and hovering silently above the woods, drawn by Rylan's powerful grief signal. When the signal suddenly flipped to pure hope, the ship's navigation systems went haywire. For a horrifying second, the vessel shimmered into view, struggling against the unidentifiable emotional force that was scrambling its controls. Sylwen's light was confusing them. "Sylwen, you did it," Rylan whispered to the wind, his heart swelling with a mix of relief and a terrifying new emotion, connection. He wasn't alone anymore. His sorrow had found an echo, but his hope had found a voice. He knew this was only the first battle. They had only neutralized the local threat. The primary Void cult fleet was still out there, searching for the resonance of the Tkari Aethelum. Now, they would know their prey was not just running, it was fighting back. Rylan sprinted toward the bookshop, the promise of a future with this courageous half-Zylian girl lighting his path. He knew he had to save his people's memory, but now, he had something else to protect, the girl who had taken his pain and turned it into the purest weapon in the universe.